Hello, my name is Quincy Coleman, founder of the Black Pride Movement, and this is our second installment. I want to apologize on the lateness of this video. We're having some technical difficulties. Today's topic is self-hate. I want to kick into that topic with a brief story. I met a young lady who grew up in Southwest Detroit, and for any of you from the Metro Detroit area or the geographic Detroit, Southwest Detroit is a predominantly Hispanic area. And she grew up there for a brief period of time. She lived there, fellowshiped there, got to know the culture, and then she moved to the projects, which is predominantly black, over on Evergreen in Southfield, if I'm not mistaken. And I talked to her, and she told me that the blacks in the projects were way worse than the Mexicans in Southwest Detroit. The Hispanics were more civilized. They were less violent. They didn't always fight for no reason. Seemed to be less crime. And the people in the projects, the people who look like her, the black people, there's an African American woman telling me this, the people who look just like her are far more ignorant. They yell, they fight for no reason, they act like buffoons. So I looked it up and I said, I know that's not true because statistics will tell us that the area of Southwest Detroit and the area of Evergreen and Southfield have just as much crime as one another. And actually, Southwest has more. So I said, why does she think that her own people are far more ignorant when, in fact, that's just not the case? Well, I'll tell you why. It's the self-hate complex that's so embedded in our people. It's the thing that's saying, wow, my people are just so ignorant, so this group of people is not like me, they must be better. She grew up there. She tried to wrap herself in the culture, wrap herself in the Hispanic lifestyle and culture, which we can never do because no matter how much you do to be like them, you can speak the language, you're not an Hispanic. You're not an Hispanic. You're a black woman and an African American woman. You're never going to be like them. So it really takes understanding of why. And of course, I like to always go back. You can always go back to the times of slavery. Well, in times of slavery, the master would separate you and put you in classes based on color. Of course, the lighter you were in the house. You had better food. You had better clothes. You lived better. If you were dark, you were in the field. You were thought to be less civilized. You were not as intelligent as you were if you were light-skinned. Which we know today is absolute nonsense and not based in science at all. But that's how they thought. So it's embedded in us as blacks that the lighter one is, the better one is. You can find this with our girls. Niggas walking around talking about, oh, excuse my language, oh, she light-skinned, she cute. And in fact, I know several people who say this. The young lady really isn't cute at all. In that she's light-skinned, so she must be better. Oh, she's better. Light-skinned people, they got good hair. They're better. So Hispanics, being of lighter skin than African Americans, this young lady, so messed up, thought that, wow, I think they're better than me. They're lighter skinned, they're closer to white, so they must be better. And you think, oh, that's ridiculous. That she just might have been a personal experience, but it's not that. It's how we've been designed. The lighter the skin, the better. I'll give you an example. Well, you can also say Hispanics are just like us, Quincy. They've gone through the same stuff we've gone through. They're kind of black. And I say, no, we're going to get into that a little later, but Hispanics are not black at all. They're Hispanics, and they're closer to white. I'll give you a perfect example of that. George Zimmerman, when he slayed young Trayvon for absolutely no reason at all, we all thought he was white. And of course, he had a little Hispanic in him. He was putting white on his job applications. But as soon as he slayed young Trayvon, he wanted to put, oh, wait a minute, I'm a Hispanic. I'm just like you guys. I'm a victim too. They always want to go back to that. They'll act white until the time comes when they have to see what they've done in the Hispanic community. They've tried to blanket themselves in the suffering of black people. See, they try to switch the issues from black-white to, oh, it's black-white to white minority. They want to make it all minority, so they want to be included in our suffering, which they're not included in our suffering. Hispanics are not us. Now, of course, if you go to the original native people in Mexico, They are of African descent, but we're not talking about those true Mexicans. We're talking about Hispanics. And Hispanics speak Spanish. Spanish people come from Spain. Spain is in Europe. So as far as I'm concerned personally, Hispanics in Mexico are closer to Europeans than they are Africans. And now, of course, they've all been racially mixed, but they're not black. They're not black, so you can't see them as black. And the self-hate that would tell you to say, just because they're lighter skinned, they're better than me, that's ridiculous. They're not better than you at all. They're not more civilized, but I take that back. They are more civilized. You know why they're more civilized? Because they understand the principles of group economics. We are the only people who don't seem to grasp the principles of group economics. Now here's what group economics tells us. If I spend money with somebody who looks like me, they're going to pump it back into my own community. They're going to help people who look like me. They're going to spend it with us. They're going to, if you spend money with people who don't look like you, they're getting richer and you're getting poorer. Mexicans understand this. Asians understand this. And whites definitely understand this, but blacks don't. What the Hispanics do is they move to Southwest and they build a wall around it with their culture. So they can say if a black guy or a white guy tries to come into their community, Mexican town, and open a shop, I'm not going to buy from you. Why would I buy from you when you don't live on this part of town? You don't look like me. You don't have the same religion as me. You don't speak the same language as me. You're going to take the money I give you and go help some other part of town when I can spend it with my brother who's going to stay here, help me, help build my community, looks just like me, has the same beliefs as me, and has the same political interest as me, the same goals. But we don't seem to understand this. We seem to think that when you've made it, see, everybody's definition of made it, every race's definition of we've made it is different. The black people's definition, or the African Americans' definition of we've made it, is not that we've made it and we've helped other people make it and our community has made it. It's I've made it. Now I'm going to move out to for example, people say, that's my ticket out the hood. They don't mean that's my ticket out the hood. They mean that's my ticket out the black neighborhood into the whitest neighborhood I can think of. That's when you know a black person has so-and-so made it. What they do is they pack up and they move to the whitest neighborhood. They don't want nothing to do with y'all once they've made it. But you see with other groups of people, what they do is they might say, okay, I've made it, I can be rich, I can be successful, but I'm going to live in my own community. I'm still going to live in my own community. You can see this with rappers, especially with basketball players. If you're familiar with Detroit, the Detroit Pistons, when they were all buying houses in Bloomfield and Birmingham and West Bloomfield Hills, John Sally was the only person to buy a house in Detroit in Palmer Woods, and his house was more beautiful than all of their houses. Because it's not that, oh, we have to move out because we want to live in a safe community. There are safe communities with people who look like you in them. But you just want to live close to master. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's not a safety issue. It's not there wasn't houses big enough issue. It was just we made it and we want to live next to white people. And that's how your mind is so poisoned. That's how your mind thinks. All white neighborhood, we made it. It's in songs. It's in songs. Rick Ross raps about it. You see the videos, the music videos, you can start to see an interesting change. And one of T.I.'s videos is so interesting. He has flashbacks from his life in poverty, or what you call it, and then his life when he made it. And in his life of poverty, or so-called poverty, he's surrounded by black girls, beautiful black women, models. But then when he gets to successful in his mansion, all white women. It's something about the mindset that you have to switch, that once you made it, you can't be around your people because that's not acceptable. And that's completely ridiculous. You can even look at it, it's in all of us. It's so embedded in all of us. The first thing we do when we get a little money is we go out to Somerset. We go to the whitest, richest mall, not even the richest, the whitest mall, the furthest out, spend all the money and gas that you don't have to go out there. Just to be around people who don't look like you and really don't want you out there. And the only reason really to go to Somerset is if you want to go to a high-end store like the Louis Vuitton store, the Gucci store, the Fendi, the Tappers. But they're not going to those stores. You know what they're going to do? They're going to Macy's. So why would you not want to go to Macy's at Northland or Fairlane, save gas, and be around people who look like you and probably want you there more than people at Somerset, because they really don't want you there. And I know they don't want you there because they don't want me there. And I come from a family of means. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, better. I come from a family, I know how to conduct myself. People say I dress white, which is ridiculous because there's no such thing as dressing white. I dress nice. And they look at me funny. So I know they look at people funny when they got the long chains and the saggy pants. They don't want you out there. And if you're not wanted, why would you go where you're not wanted? Because no matter what master does to you, he can beat you, he can shoot your kids, he can throw you in jail, overwhelming numbers. You still want to be next to him. You still want to be close to him. You still want to be like him. You must break the cycle. Even with the designers and what we consider to be fly or beauty. You come in here with a Gucci belt that costs $500. Nice belts. A European designer. Oh, it's European. Oh, it's nice, you know. I wear European clothes. It's nice. But I come in, I wear my African dashiki, which probably costs more than that Gucci belt. I guarantee you it does, because that traditional African handmade clothing is not cheap to buy. You fly and I'm a fool. I'm a fool for wearing my native attire as a person of African descent. But you're not a fool for trying to wear they attire when they really didn't make it for you. Tommy Hilfiger said it. Ralph Lauren said it. He insinuated it. All of them think it. You think they want you wearing their stuff? It's not made for you. It's not designed for you. And Tommy Hilfiger, I can give him credit because, you know, he said what they all thinking. He wasn't fake about it. My clothes ain't for young black people. So what makes you think Ralph Lauren, Fendi, Gucci, Prada is? Nothing wrong with having nice things, but understand the mindset of you, why you want those nice things. Do you want those nice things because you like those nice things, or because you think it'll make you somehow better wearing a European designer? It's self-hate. And to touch on the issue of the neighborhood, nobody's saying when you make it big and you get rich and you do what you do that you have to live in a slum, a ghetto, a poor neighborhood, a dangerous neighborhood just to live next to your people. But you don't have to live in an all-white neighborhood either. There are plenty of predominantly African-American neighborhoods, or at least with some African-Americans in them who will welcome you, who are safe and clean and wealthy communities. Because you don't want your kid to grow up and say, hey, mommy, daddy, how come nobody here looks like me? How come the neighbors look at us when we take our trash out? I'll tell you why they do. Because they don't want you there. Dr. Khalid Muhammad is one of his speeches, I think it was the bullet or the bullet. Excuse me. He says, what's the nigga? Somebody asked him about education or about making a lot of money. Isn't that a way out? Poverty, education, and success? He said, oh, white men only shooting PhD niggas today. Or only shooting uneducated niggas. They don't care. Look at the doctor in Washington, D.C. who got locked out of it, or I believe it was D.C., who got locked out of his house. This is a guy who makes hundreds of thousands a year, is a professor, highly educated. They didn't say, he said, I live here. The policeman said, no, I don't think you live here. You black. And not show me your credentials. Get in the car. And they arrested that man and took him downtown. But he lived at that house. He lived there. They don't care whether you're educated or not. You can make all the money in the world, but you got to understand the situation you're in. You ain't going to never get out your boat. I don't care. If you a nigga. If I don't mean that to offend anybody or excuse my language, but that's what you got to understand. You ain't nothing but a nigga to them. And you always gonna be a nigga. I don't care how much money you make, how many degrees you have, you a nigga. Malcolm X said, you'll go out to these rich white neighborhoods, get the best job and brag about, I'm the only nigga at my job. I'm the only nigga who live in this neighborhood. You ain't nothing but a house nigga. And you brag about being a house nigga like it's something cool about being a house nigga. It's nothing good. That just means you're so messed up in the head that you don't realize that you hate yourself. And that's what they want. They want you to hate yourself. They want to divide us. Because when you divide, you can conquer. Romans started that. You can divide, you can conquer. Group economics is very important, but we don't practice it because of the self-hate. The self-hate is so deeply embedded in all of us. And it is, even me, I struggle with it. Everybody struggles with it. Because we don't even know who we are. We've been in this country so long. We have no sense of self. And that's the crazy part. We have no sense of self. Everybody else in this country has a sense of self. The Europeans, who ask next time ask one of your Caucasian friends, where do you come from? What's your traditions? I come from Ireland. We still celebrate St. Patrick's Day. We know who we are. One of your Hispanic friends, oh yeah, it's Cinco de Mayo. We're going to celebrate. They know where they come from. They know their traditions. They know who they are. We don't. When the last time you celebrated Kwanzaa? And Kwanzaa is not even a real African holiday. That's something made up. But at least celebrate that. We trying to get culture, but you don't even want to celebrate that. You laugh at us for celebrating that, but everybody else celebrates their own culture. We don't even know our culture. We don't even know what countries we come from. They know what countries they come from. We don't even know this stuff. And every time we integrate, and I don't mean integrate, yeah I do. Every time you integrate, when you live around a group of people, and you accept their culture and you learn about their other cultures, you erode a little bit of yourself, because you can't understand somebody else's culture until you know your own culture. You can't celebrate somebody else's holidays until you know your own holidays. You can't because you don't even know who you are. So how are you going to know who they are? You don't even know who you are. You're starting to adapt the culture of them. You're starting to adapt the culture of them and lose your own culture. They're not losing their culture, we're losing our culture. And if you don't stop soon, it won't even be, you won't even have a culture. And they try to change our culture. You think your culture is fried chicken and watermelon and talking loud and being late or being overly violent? You think your culture is that. So why would you want to be a part of your culture? You don't know the proud history of people that you come from. And that's what I'm hoping to accomplish with these web videos. Awareness. You have to be aware of the self-hate that you possess for yourself, and then you can overcome it, because you can't overcome something you have no idea of. Like I'll just tell you, the first step is admitting you have a problem. And we all got a problem. So now let's overcome it before we become a race of, well, we already are, or we are, so we can stop ourselves from being a race of uncultured black people who know nothing about where we come from, don't care nothing about where we come from, and all we care about is LeBron James' stats or Kobe Bryant's stats. Good house niggas. And I love LeBron James and Kobe, what they do. They help the community. Oh, I'm sure they help the community. I'm sure they do. But because you buy the children coach and go back to the school and give reach, are you really helping the social injustices that are out here? Dr. Claude Anderson was telling a story about these athletes and these celebrities, money made with all these, they pay more in taxes than the money they're paying in taxes, they could give it to him to help his think tank, but they won't. Help something for them. They don't care about you. They don't care about you celebrities. You just a nigga that can jump high. You entertainment. You a modern day entertainment. They pay to go see you play. Football, they pay to see you play. Oh, it's white football player. No, most of the NBA, overwhelmingly, I'm sure, don't quote me on that, it's a black game. Basketball, it's a black game. We play sports. They pay to see us play. You ain't nothing but entertainment. So stop being a joke. Stop being a joke. Learn something. And find a way to get out of your situation. I'm going to tell you the only way out of your situation is cultural pride. When you understand who you are, you can understand how you used to think, you can get back into how you used to think, and when you start thinking like a black man, you behave like a black man, and no black man is going to let another group of people fuck his people over for the last 400 years and get away with it. So I want you guys to go pick up this book. It's A Slave and a Citizen. It's a good book. I'm reading it, The Negro in America. And another book, A Search for Identity. A Black Man Confronts Africa, A Search for Identity. It's an excellent book talking about the same things we're talking about today. And I want to thank you for watching my lecture, or more like what I feel is the problem, my lecture. And tune in next week. We're going to have a special guest. So thank you.